What do you think of Craig Keener's work on contemporary miracles?
Well, Craig Keener's a good buddy. Hey, by the way, I should just tell you a little aside here. Craig Keener's written probably the longest commentary in Acts in history. 4 large volumes, I think 5,000 pages. The miracles, the 2 books you're asking about, they were supposed to be in his Acts commentary because he was raising the question, do things today happen like the things the book of Acts repeats? And he thought it would be really interesting to say and argue that, yeah, those things still happen because we have tens of thousands of miracle reports today, just like they did in the early church. Well, it got too big. So these 2 volumes on miracles, 1,100 pages, were a spin-off of his 5,000 pages in Acts. So that would make over 6,000 pages on Acts. Now, Craig is not an apologist. He's a super guy, PhD in New Testament from Duke. He's got a minor in classics. His books have well over 100,000 links to classical sources. I mean, when people read him, you know you're reading a scholar. And yet he doesn't think apologetically. He's a really good friend. But you say to him, I've asked him, Craig, how many miracle cases do you have in that book? And he'll go, I don't know, Gary. I don't think that way. There's a lot of them. Well, thanks, Craig. Thanks. My estimate is there's well over 1,000. Okay, now, the biggest, oh, by the way, it's a treatment of David Hume, too. He's got a good critique of Hume at the beginning of Volume 1. But, all right, so he's got thousands of cases, yeah. Here's the big criticism. Most of his cases are anecdotal. He tells stories, and sometimes he tells a story that a missionary in Europe, a missionary in South America, a missionary in Russia, they tell him, or just a Christian that they know in those places, they write him and tell him the story, and he repeats it. So it could be the second or third time the story's been told. It's anecdotal. But there are also a lot of stories out of the 1,000. You have to be careful. You got to go through and kind of call them out, pull them out. Craig acknowledges that they're anecdotal. Craig acknowledges that. But if you go back and you do the ones that have pre and post X-rays, pre and post CAT scans, pre and post MRIs, if you only use those, and by the way, some of these people, when Craig's interviewing them, they sent him their MRI report. They sent him the pre and post, the X-rays. He got these things in the mail from people who are mailing them to him. And some of them are just incredible, the pre and post. For example, one of them was a little boy who had a diseased kidney. He's very young. And he has a diseased kidney, and they have to remove one of them. So his kidney is they cut him, and they get in there and they take the kidney out. And he goes back for his checkup, and he's got a kidney. He's got 2 kidneys. But they took one out, unless you want to say the doctors at that hospital are incompetent. All right, here's another one. One of my favorites. There's a child with a club foot. If you can picture a club foot. And child's got to have a surgery on a club foot. And the orthopedic surgeon, as I remember the story, is right there. And a pastor says, can I pray for him one last time? And the surgeon said, well, yeah, go ahead. We have to do the surgery, but be my guest. And the pastor prays for the child. Because, you know, the classic case is, do we see any limbs that regrow? Or do you see a finger that's been severed that regrows? Well, the orthopedic surgeon basically says, I cheated. I mean, euphemistically, didn't say those words, but the surgeon says, I kept my eyes open during the prayer. And he said, while the pastor was praying, I watched the foot open up. And the child's foot was whole. Obviously, we didn't have to do the surgery.
Was the doctor a believer?
I do not remember. I don't remember. It's been a long time since I've looked at this stuff, but I don't know the answer to that. But the doctor was an orthopedic surgeon, I believe, and the person praying was a pastor. I do not know the faith of the pastor. Was obviously a believer, but I do not know what the doctor was. In fact, I don't even know if they answer that. But But either they're lying or they saw it. Look, if the child's foot opens, and we have photographs of the club foot, you could have a before and after photo. You could have before and after. If he's going to have surgery, or this child, you got some data before and after. So that one, the kidney one, there's a number of them in here. There are people who have cancer tumors the size of oranges or grapefruits, and they've got all the data and they're ready to go in and do the surgery. And the person comes in and says, "Hey doc, I was praying last night and I felt something happened to me, and I think it's going to be gone, and I could feel this." One was in a woman's abdomen, and she said, "I can always feel it by touching it right here because it's huge, and I can't feel it right now." So they go in and do one more test, and the tumor's gone.
And there's pre and post pictures of those things.
Pre and post pictures of various sorts: CAT, CT scan, MRI, X-rays. Yeah, broken bone. There are cases where this person breaks a bone. One case where a man broke his bone, and it was a bad break. I mean, to show you how bad it was, he went to a men's retreat. Show you how bad it was, they kept him in the hospital for 2 or 3 days. You don't do that with broken bones. And they said it, and they said, when you go back home, have your doctor look at these X-rays and see if it's healing. He went back home, showed the doctor the X-rays, and the doctor said, "Yeah, nice shot, but you didn't break your bone." And the guy said, "No, I did." And the guy said, "No, because when bones are broken, there's like a little halo around them or a little mark, and even if it's healed, you can see the data." And the guy said, "Well, I'll prove it to you." And he sent away and got the X-rays and came back and showed the doctor it was his leg. So, and I have a case like that personally. A minister friend of mine, his son fell off a swing set and broke an arm or a leg, and it was in New Jersey, and he's from Detroit. And by the time we got back home, the doctor was saying this bone wasn't broken, and they had just ordered the X-rays from New Jersey. So, there are cases. Anyway, we're back to David Hume, who says there's no data like that that's uniform experience against. No, there isn't. In fact, a famous book out, Candy Gunther Brown. She's a professor, I think, at Indiana University, PhD from Harvard. She published a book called Healing Prayer, I believe is the name of it. And she does this way to test prayer while it's happening, like in Africa or something. All right, here's what's interesting about her. Her PhD is from Harvard. The book is published by Harvard University Press. And the 2 endorsements on their back are from a present professor at Harvard Medical School and a former professor from Harvard Medical School, called Testing Prayer. If you're open-minded, you at least want to look at this stuff. So I think, yeah, Craig's thesis is if it's going on today, you can't knock it in the Book of Acts.